Anyway, hello. I will just go ahead and get started, and if more people jump on, great. If not, that's fine too. So I today wanted to talk more in depth about shadow. So hopefully you've been following along and have seen my videos all about shadow and shadow work. And I have been experiencing quite a lot of that myself recently. So I just wanted to talk about this more in depth and talk about how it is showing up for me. So usually when I teach something, always when I teach something, I feel like I have experienced it myself, gone through it a lot, gone through it enough to be able to teach it, right? They say that if you can't teach something, you don't know it well enough. So I've been through this whole shadow thing like over and over and over again many times. Thought I was good. Well, for whatever reason, I guess to just revisit it, more shadow stuff has been coming in for me. So the things that have been coming in for me, so there's three big things. Number one is thoughts coming in late at night. So I wanted to go more in depth in each of these things. And with the thoughts late at night, so I have this pattern, which I bet others can relate to, where you're all good, you're tired, then the second you lay down in bed, you just can't sleep and your thoughts start racing, and go like all kinds of places. So this happened to me the other night, and because I was really tired, and for whatever reason I got woken up or wasn't allowed to fall asleep, and I just laid there and was like, okay, what if I just lay here and kind of like play this out? So the thoughts for me were like recurring shadow thoughts. I won't go too much into detail about it, but I was like, why does this always get super loud at night? Well, thinking about it, I'm like, if you think about it, you're busy during the day. There's so many distractions. Even if you are someone who's really good at practicing being present, like paying attention to what you're thinking and feeling, there's just a lot going on during the day. So for whatever reason, at night, your mind calms down usually, and these thoughts pop in. So I have been experiencing a lot of that. Another thing is a lot of shadow reflected back to me by those around me. So any kind of relationship. They always say our relationships are our mirrors, and I think that's a big way that shadow is reflected back to us, is in the people around us. And then the third thing that's been coming up is anxiety. So in the simplest terms, how I like to think of anxiety, we all experience anxiety, but from an energetic standpoint, it's when we are either worrying about the future or we're worrying about the past. So you can kind of clear up anxiety or control it if you're like, okay, I recognize that I'm like focusing on something that happened in the past, or I am worrying about something that is a possible outcome in the future. And if I bring it back to my state right now, I don't have anxiety. Like there's nothing going on at the moment to give me anxiety. So those are the big three things that have been coming in for me with shadow. And how I've been kind of navigating that. So with the late night thoughts, so I've known that I have this pattern, that when I have these like crazy late night shadow thoughts, I immediately go to distraction. So I'll go on my phone, I'll go on Instagram, or I will do online shopping, or I'll do something to try to pull myself out of what I am thinking about or distract myself. And yesterday, I think it was yesterday, like, what would happen if I just sat here and breathed through these thoughts? And I know I teach this all the time, but it's amazing how much that helps. And I'm like, let me just let these thoughts play out. Let me just sit here, breathe through it, be uncomfortable, and picture, like, really imagine these as things and not as like, this is me. So these are just thoughts like passing through me. I don't have to take this on. These aren't mine to own. This isn't a part of me. This is just energy moving through me. So that really helped me, along with the deep breathing. I actually turned on once I kind of like got my body out of that nervous system response from all the shadow thoughts, I was able to really calm down, breathe through it, and then I put on like a guided meditation and I was able to fall asleep. If you are like, I don't know, she's been talking about shadow, I'm not really getting it, I'm not really seeing how it's showing up. Two things with the late night stuff, the racing thoughts, those are shadow, as well as the pattern that follows. So like I mentioned, my pattern is I immediately try to change what I'm thinking about so that I don't have to think about the uncomfortable. Usually it's online shopping, just gonna be totally honest. I buy a lot of stuff in the middle of the night when I can't sleep. So both the thoughts and the pattern are both the shadow. With the relationships, really seeing how the wounding that I have around relationships and how like the behaviors I have. So it's like if I don't behave in a certain way, I'm afraid of what the outcome from this other person will be. And really trying to work on, you have no control over this person. You have no control over what their actions are. You can only control yourself and how you feel about it. And so the shadow is how you feel about it. So your thoughts like, I'm not good enough, I'm going to be abandoned, like all of that stuff, as well as, again, the pattern in the relationship where I feel like I have to behave a certain way, I have to do a certain thing, or XYZ will follow and I will be abandoned by this person. All of that is shadow. And then with the anxiety, I don't know why the anxiety is coming in. I just feel like it is a chance for me to look at that it is part of the shadow. Whatever I'm having anxiety around is something old that's either stuck in my body or I feel like I need to move through it again. All of those things are shadow. It's not, I don't know. I feel like we try to generalize and make it so simple, and there's really a lot of stuff that's popping up that is shadow and we don't realize it. I just lost my train of thought, but hold on, there was something else I was going to say about that. If it's important, it'll come back to me. But on a note about healing, so for me, the shadow and quote unquote healing are like the same thing. They go hand in hand. And I was just, not to hate on any other spiritual teachers, because I think what people are trying to do is great. But I just see a lot of stuff like, come to me, come to my healing session, you'll feel great, you'll feel calm and happy, and I just don't feel like it's like that. I feel like this is just like, let me get on my soapbox for a second. I feel like the spiritual community, some people, their guidance is misleading. It's not, you're not going to go get a Reiki session and just feel better and your problems are going to be solved. That's not how it works. And oftentimes you'll feel worse. And people who do energy work or energy healing, and I'm not knocking on any of that because I think it's great and very necessary, but I think they don't tell their clients how they're actually going to feel so that people aren't scared to come in. Some of the healing sessions that I've done recently have been, I'm like, you're releasing so much stuff, you're going to feel crappy. Like if you didn't, I would be surprised. So kind of getting back off my soapbox, but I feel like healing, we do ourselves such a disservice by saying like, oh, I'm healing. I'm going through this healing journey and it's so amazing and wonderful. And I'm like, it's not like that. Yeah, it's eventually you feel better, but you have to go through this shit. Like you have to go through the shadow and like move through all of the hard and uncomfortable stuff, or you're never going to get better. You're lying to yourself if you think that you can mantra your way out of it. If you can't, like mantras to me are, I'm being super negative, but I'm like, you cannot mantra your way out of this. You can't tell yourself over and over and over again, I'm going to be happy, I'm going to feel great, and it's going to work. Like you're just lying to yourself. That's my personal feeling. Take it or leave it, but that is how I feel. And I'm starting to get thoughts coming back and looping back around. But I think just if you are going through shadow right now and you feel like shit and you're like, what am I doing wrong? Like that is normal. That is, I would say you're doing it correctly. It's not rainbows and butterflies, and it's going to be hard and it's going to be ugly, and you're going to go through the same things over and over and over again and be like, God, I feel like I went through this. I healed this. Like I'm good. It's not like that. And I feel like we need to talk about that more, and we need to, I'm just trying to be real and honest, and I'm doing you a disservice by telling you like, yeah, it's all happy and you just move through it and things just clear and move, and it's not like that. Honestly, like the last couple days, just to give a bit of perspective, like I've gone to the point where I'm like, I literally emotionally feel like I'm dying right now. Like I feel like I cannot take this anymore. I can't do it anymore. And that is the point where I feel like the breakthrough comes when you, like I've been fighting this and fighting it and like, hey, I'm doing like the 10-step process, like it should be working, but also at the same time fighting it. And today I literally was like, what if I just said, I don't care what anyone thinks of me. I'm just going to cry. I'm just going to be melancholy all day. I'm just going to what's the word? I don't know if the right word's like give in. I'm just going to give in basically. And I'm just going to let it all move through. And you know what? I'm starting to feel better. But I literally had to just give it to God, for lack of a better term, and say, I give up. I quit. I don't know what you want me to do. This is too hard. Let's move it through, basically. Like I give up. I'm done fighting this. And that is where the breakthrough happens. So if you feel like me, you're going through it and you're like, God, she's telling me if I do X, Y, and Z, I'm going to move it through my body. I'm going to feel better. And it's not working. You haven't fully given yourself over to it yet. And that's easier said than done, because we all have to function in society, right? We have to go to work. We have to deal with our kids. We have to deal with neighbors or go to the DMV or whatever it is. So you can't just be like a crying mess all the time. But that is where the magic happens. That is where the breakthrough happens, is when you literally say, I cannot take this anymore. I surrender myself. That's the word. You totally surrender to it. I'm still working through stuff, but I feel like that was the breakthrough where I was like, what if I just surrendered and just saw what happened? What if I just stopped worrying about everyone else, stopped worrying about what's going to happen tomorrow, all the what ifs, all of the attachment wounding that I have, all of the fears that I have, and I just said, screw it. Like I'm done. I'm just giving it all over. And you know what? It worked. As funny as that sounds, it worked. Like I feel like the harder we fight against it, the more difficult it is to move it through our body. So whatever you have to do to surrender, if it's crying for like 3 days straight, like I feel like I've been doing, whether it's just having extreme boundaries with people in your life, or deciding your self-worth, or even if it's just like, I have this one thing that I know is a pattern. Like for me, late at night when I have those thoughts, my online shopping, and what if I just said, today I'm just going to work on this one little thing. It helps. All of it helps. You're not doing anything wrong. Especially if you feel worse, your body is working on reliving all of that stuff that is stuck in there so that it can release it. So I would say if you feel terrible, you're actually doing it right, which it shouldn't be that way, but that's been my experience. Let me think if there's anything else I wanted to talk about. I don't think so. I think that was it. Just pretty much full surrender to whatever is coming up for you, no matter how ugly it is, no matter how afraid of it you are. What if you just said, fuck it? Like, excuse my French, but what if you just said, screw it? I'm just completely surrendering and letting whatever happen. I don't know. It works for me. So try it out. Let me know if it works. Let me know if you have questions, and thank you to those of you who tuned in. I hope this is helpful. I will be wrapping up on shadow. I want to talk a little bit about the collective shadow, so that will be maybe 1 to 3 videos depending on how I organize the content. But as always, thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. I love you all, and have a good night.